Okay, if everything went well, we should be here and live.
Already live.
Nice.
Yeah, what's next? Check the audio to make sure that everything works.
Waiting for the
Everything works, huh?
We're good. Yep.
We're good.
Colette.
Another TROM-Cast. Before we begin, we do these things kinda every week. And if you want to participate, we post the links on Trom Live, tromsite.com/live, and you can join via Jitsi. And we stream on YouTube usually, but we also post the TROM-Cast on tromsite.com/videos. What else? You can also join. We have now we installed Nextcloud, so we created our own Trom Cloud. Nextcloud is like Dropbox and Google Drive in one, but you have full control. So we installed it on our server, so we can have chats there, we can have file sharing, we have all kinds of tools, which is very great. It's very useful for me, and we have a chat, and now we can make some of those rooms public. So we have Trom discussions room is public, so anyone can join that room and they can ask questions for Trom live. And in general, if you want to join, then join that room. It's you can find it on you can find it on Trom Live, and you can also find it on Trom Act, like tromsite.com/act, where you can get involved, you can participate. Okay, so today we are making a TROM-Cast about loneliness, and it was proposed by Carl, and Carl is new to TROM-Cast, so
Yeah.
great that you participate, Carl, and you come up with the subject for us.
Yeah.
Because we don't know anymore what to talk about.
Really?
We talk about so many things.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting subject.
Yeah.
So, but if you want to tell us a bit, why did you choose why do you think this is an important subject, loneliness?
Yeah, I can try. I'm not very used to talking a lot with other people online. I don't know very well, but and I'm a bit tired today, but I think I can manage.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, but I mean, I saw you talked about many things like homelessness, many symptoms of our society. So loneliness is what I observe as being one of them. Yeah, I don't know how many of you, but I think many that deviate from society in some way has experienced it. Seems if you have been lonely, you have more time away from other people, and maybe you can evolve different strands in society. Not necessarily, but I don't know if any one of you have experienced it.
How would you define loneliness?
Loneliness. I mean, lack of company, maybe. I would also say it's maybe a lack of, touch could be one of them, especially. I just read about, that's maybe more for children, that babies, they can die if they don't have touch and affection as children. Have you heard about the Bucharest project in Romania?
Those kids that were put in when the communist era was in place, and they were put in how do you call that? Orphanages. Yeah. And so you can say what do you want to say about that?
Yeah, they developed to be very socially backdrawn. Many of them, they didn't. Maybe they had access to medicine and cleanliness and everything, but they didn't have access to company from adults and affection, really. So they became socially damaged. Even their brain structures changed a bit. And small children, they could die if they didn't get any affection at all. So it seems it's very important to humans to have company, affection, touch, and things to thrive. and develop normally.
Do you think it's a matter of, and this is for all of you, like it's a matter of touch and affection, or of a matter of stimulation? Like if you don't stimulate,
Stimulation, yeah, I would say that may be a better word. But yeah, physically, verbally, visually.
like even the cases of feral children that are extreme, when they are kids that are neglected and they don't get much attention, and they don't learn a language, and they don't learn even how to walk properly and how to behave, and they develop a behavior that we consider as abnormal. But I'm thinking, is this behavior harmful for them, or is just an abnormal behavior that we consider as not a good one? So are they suffering? Probably they're suffering. What do you know about this case in Romania, for example?
I mean, I've only heard about it years ago because one of my friends studied pedagogics or child caretaking, and he heard about this case. But I just reread about it today. I don't know much about it. I just know that it seems that this need goes into adulthood of stimulation, and if you don't get it, you will have higher chance of depression. Maybe I should have some sources for that, but I think, I mean, if I've been alone for a long time, I would become very sad. But if not, yeah, it's better.
But what's the difference there between, because someone like being alone and being lonely? Because I've been alone most of my life, like many times, and I didn't feel a problem. Like I adapted so well at this. I'm interestingly, for me, it's like I'm more stressed out when I'm around people. They stress me out more than when I'm alone. So I think it's more a matter of feeling lonely.
Yeah.
Feeling lonely. Even people who are in a relationship, they might feel lonely, even if they have friends, and a girlfriend, a boyfriend, and so forth.
Yeah, it's true. But I think you can talk.
I was going, when you also don't fit in culturally, like you come from one place, but you're surrounded by people from a completely different culture or nation, or they speak a different language. Like if I was surrounded by Spanish people that only speak Spanish, I would feel pretty lonely around them more than by myself, because I would not be able to relate or have a conversation. So,
or even if you speak the same language and you don't have anything in common.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's how, if you're in a relationship where you have lots of friends, or what Theo was saying, I mean, if you don't have a lot of things in common that you can actually talk about and connect, this way with each other, then you wind up lonely, of course. So it's about your background knowledge and cultural context, right? And how you connect with other people.
That's when I came in Spain and everybody was speaking Spanish, for me it was extremely relaxing. I couldn't understand anything that they are saying. I was like, that's so amazing. I just go out and don't say anything that they say. I have no interest in that. So you see, it depends. It depends. The loneliness part, it's what's important, not like the feeling of I'm alone, rather than the physical aspect of being alone. There are many people who are alone and go travel alone, and they enjoy it even more so than going with other people. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what is this loneliness really like? It's a lack of something. It's a lack of, it depends what. It's a lack of, maybe if I didn't have this project to put my energy into it and like create stuff, maybe I will feel alone. So maybe it's not especially a lack of people and relationships. Maybe it's also a lack of not knowing what to do, not having something to do.
Lack of purpose.
Purpose, maybe.
I would also say that, are people more lonely in cities, or are they more lonely in rural areas? I would probably say cities. And in cities, people are surrounded by more and more people, but it's maybe the competitive vibe where you don't feel like you're a part of anything, but you're just your neighbor is like gonna outdo you or something like that. It's he's not an ally. And most people in big cities who live in big buildings don't know any any of their neighbors. So it's like, because cities are trade hubs, and more trade hubs than the outskirts, it's tend to be places where people don't feel like they are part of a larger community, but more like a competitor in a field that where people fight against each other rather than together and stuff like that.
And they're so busy, what they do is they go to work, and most people work in some shitty office and some shitty job that they hate, with a bunch of people they don't have much in common with and don't really want to hang out with. And then they come home, and most of them are too tired to do anything besides go on social media or watch a movie, and it's hard to develop communities in cities, I think, in big cities. Whereas at least if you're in a small village, you're born into a community, basically, or you can move into a community. People are much closer in smaller areas.
And I think it's not like Seb was saying, it's about the trade cities. Because normally, if you have a city in a different kind of society that people have more and more free time, probably that's more opportunity. There will be more opportunities for people to engage with each other and go out and then meet with new people. But because you live in this trade-based society, that's basically all you do. You have to trade your stuff for other stuff. Then of course your relationship with other people are going to be more on a business plan, or more of like you have to game other people, and it's very difficult. And if you go into bigger city, for me, I lived most of my life in very small cities. Like the city that I live now is 3,000 citizens. So before I lived in a city with just 7,000 citizens. And whenever I go into a big city, I feel like, for me, it's so weird, because it's almost like I'm Amish. Those Amish people who live without technology, and then I'm going to Las Vegas. I'm like, what the fuck is this? In big cities, I'm like, crazy. It's crazy from an outsider a bit, because I can see that everybody goes somewhere. It doesn't matter if you have these big buildings and lots of people, because everybody has their own path. So they kind of rarely interact with each other. That's how it is. So from an alien's perspective, they may think that there are lots of people there. People couldn't be lonely. It could be the opposite. When you see those many people, most of them are busy with their life. Most of them will be lonely, probably. Will feel lonely.
And they don't care so much about each other, because there's so many people around already. They're just trying to bypass each other. They see a homeless person, they don't really care. Whereas if you grow up in some small village where everybody knows each other and someone's homeless, they'll try to help the person, probably, depending on the village. But
completely. I would say in the business world, which cities are closer to, people are seen more as contacts rather than friends. They're business partners rather than people you enjoy and spend a good time with. And that type of mentality kind of hinders people to feel like they're part of something. They're just here to either gain something from somebody else, or have to give something to them with expecting something in return, of course.
But it seems you're right. It's not only the company. It doesn't matter how many humans there are. It depends on the quality of the friendships, and if you have things in common, if you feel you do things together that are meaningful and stimulate each other. I mean, you can get many people treat someone in orphanages, but if you don't get close to them, then they will not feel good. Seems. Also, institutions in general, many children, they don't spend time with their mothers, parents in general, because they have to go to daycare. The parents have to work. And many people are missing that close relationship. And maybe that will affect us in the future. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you just think about it, like if you think about a big city like New York or something with nearly 10 million people pushed and forced into one place, and all there in like small apartments, and everybody is competing with each other there, and there are just people everywhere. Of course, people won't care about other people necessarily as much as in the outskirts, because where are they supposed to go? What are they supposed to do? It's just people everywhere. So you're sick of people. You want to like get away from people, and you don't feel like you're necessarily a part of it. But in the outskirts, like if there are 3-4 people, everyone has a little bit of space. it's a bit of a different situation. And you start to think of those people as your allies, maybe, because, oh shit, if something goes down, or I need to, I need to borrow something, I can ask the guy maybe, or something of those sorts.
But I maybe want to add that you can also feel quite lonely in a small area. Because I grew up in a village with 700 people, and there were maybe only a few people in my age, a few teenagers, and I couldn't really relate to them. So you are also kind of lonely in that sense.
The
Did it
more
make you
different
feel
you are.
Yeah.
What?
No, go ahead. Too.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the more different you are as an individual, of course, there are less and less chances for you to find like-minded people, even in environments where such things can grow, like such kinds of relationships. Because even for you, if you have more opportunities to meet people because you're in a small city and maybe people there know each other, if you are so different, then of course it's hard for you to relate to any of that.
Yeah.
So that's completely understandable.
So in a bigger city, you maybe have people which are more diverse, and maybe people who you can relate to a bit more. Also, alternative people, for example. Or, it doesn't matter.
You have to make an effort, though. Like if you really want to find like-minded people, you need to make an effort to find them. And I think probably a lot of people don't do that. If you're in a big city, sure, you can find some like-minded people, out of millions, but how, is the question.
Yeah.
And
Where do you look?
Well, in the past, I've traveled for a long time, many years, and sometimes I would come to a new place where I didn't know anybody, and I would just either make or join a couch surfing meetup to find kind of like-minded people. Not really because I was lonely. I don't think I ever felt really lonely, not for a long time at least. And I don't know, just to have some fun, I guess. And but you need to make that effort. You need to go out and look for it. Now we have the internet, so you can find all sorts of people if you're in a big city. But they're not just going to come to you. Same with anything.
The internet is also hijacking our opportunities to maybe get to meet new people because you do that through companies who want basically your attention, and then they breathe this kind of narcissistic behavior from people. Like it's all about them, like me, Facebook and Instagram, and maybe it's difficult. Of course, you can also find communities there. It could be a lot easier because distance is non-existent in the internet world. So it's a plus, but you also have to be paying attention to how do you want to connect with people, because these platforms are not made for that. Even if they are labeled as communities, as Facebook. Facebook is also actually named very well. It's a Facebook. It's only about the face, and not about the book, probably. It's not the content, it's maybe more about the cover. So but I was curious, Carl, do you live in a big city or you live in a small city?
I live in medium. It's like 16,000. That's small, of course, in the big scales, but bigger than your 700 and 7,000 cities. Maybe around 25,000 with the areas around.
Do you have friends there, like-minded people?
It's difficult. It's really difficult. So you can find it, of course. Sometimes you find someone that are okay if you make compromises. I think you all do that with each other. But I mean, the problem with me is that I don't have any parents to back me up. I think many people, they are fine if they don't have company, and will not be lonely if they just have their family at least. But if you don't have your family, you can be a bit fucked, actually, I would say. I felt that at least.
Like you don't have
No
parents, or
really.
you don't.
If you don't have at least have a foundation of some kind to help you get friends somewhere else, I mean, like if you live in an institution, you don't even have friends or a family or something to develop you socially so you can find friends, then it will be difficult. And if you're depressed because you don't have any parents to support you in the first place, it's hard to find friends. Also,
That's how you grow up.
well, I've had family kind of relations in the start and later on, and different people. But I also tried to live in an institution once, actually, and that there you don't get any. Denmark, it's better than Romania, of course, but I mean, with 10 different caretakers that you cannot relate to, you don't get the affection you need. So you really have to find it out yourself. But right now I'm fine. I mean, I found some company in a good neighbor of mine. But yeah, but it can be very harmful. At least I've observed on myself if you don't have anything.
So you lived in an orphanage for a while? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
So you lived in an orphanage for a while, or?
no, not an orphanage.
Not an orphanage.
I was maybe since I was 16 to something, just in a institution of a kind.
Yeah. Okay.
Social. I had problems with a foster care father I had because my father's a bit strange, but still a good person. So I ended up there, which sucks a bit, but I mean, I managed.
Did you have other kids your age while you were there?
If I what? Met other people my age?
Yeah. Did you have other people your age?
Yeah, there were maybe like space for 10 only, so it was a small one. Cozy and good food and everything. But they had mental problems, let's say that. I only entered there because I had... my family has bipolar disorder, mood swings from depressed to higher, which can be stabilized decently. They just gave me wrong medication because they felt like that. So I got worse, and they sent me there, even though it was actually the medication I found out later, which sucks a bit because I had to be around crazy people for that long. More crazy. Also over-medicated people. But I learned from it, at least.
I think you're very right in saying that most or many people are very dependent on their family, and you see that as well with maybe homeless people and stuff like that, or people who go to such, or are then in such situations because they don't have family to help them out, and the social structure in many places is maybe not there as a backbone to support people. So then people end up in the streets or in other conditions, where they maybe have to go to the army or different things like that, because that's the only social structure that's maybe there to support them. So I think that's an interesting point to see how the family within this system is a very strong structure in a way that keeps people in place in terms of feeling a part of something in a way.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. But it also says a lot about society in terms of it not being there for people to connect with each other and have good relations and stuff like that, and to be an actual supporting structure. Yeah.
Probably there are tribes in the world that I know some cases I've heard that they raise the kids more in a communal way, so you don't have basically a family, you have more like a community. So you are not dependent on just like maybe two people to raise you up, and because when they put you like to go to the kindergarten and then go to school, and then they put you in all kinds of like go to trips and go to this and that, they are in a way trying to like make you like touch a little bit the other sides of the society. So maybe some parts you may like, and you will go and fly towards other places when you like meet other people and have friends and so forth. But if you were to go in more like a community-driven society, and more like-minded, because I think this is a problem. People are not very. For me at least, I don't think I will find that many like-minded people because of how I think, because how I grew up. I wouldn't I don't think if I close my eyes and I have a billion people and I start to choose them like that blindly, I don't think I will find friends. Okay, it was quite lucky because I made Trom, and through Trom I filtered people. Some people hate me, some people are like, some people are like, oh, okay, and those okay, became friends. But yeah, it's also friendship is not something that I think you can seek for. It's more something like it emerges. It emerges from a relationship. I know people who search for friends, and to me that sounds just like a strange thing. You cannot search for friends or for relationships. These things grow, and I think they grow based on common interests, for example. And of course, if you can go beyond the barriers of the society, like geographic barriers, or financial barriers, when that happens, I think friendship and relationships can grow.
Yeah, and also I think a big part of that is how tolerable you are as a person. I mean, if you're an absolute shit to be around, nobody wants you. You're not going to have friends no matter how hard you go. But if people pleasers generally tend to have more, you can say, connect. You can say,
Did you say
can you
Your
hear
mic
me?
is very low.
it's hard to hear you? Yeah,
Okay, I have to come close to my phone.
yeah, go close.
I'm saying a big part of that has to do with how tolerable you are as a person. You know how much people can actually stand you. I mean, you can look everywhere and you can put out all the flyers, but if you're a piece of shit, people are not going to have you as a friend around. On the flip side, if you're going to modify every aspect of your behavior to please people, a good bunch of those people will keep you around simply because you're so agreeable. Now, whether that's friendship or not, I don't really know. Maybe it's just you're like a human accessory or a piece of furniture. Either way, it's screwed up, because I don't know. I was looking it up when you guys were talking about it, and the population of my city is close to 8 million people.
8 million.
8 million people. I can say that's around. I think I would have met around 10% of that, like almost every day. You see them everywhere, and I've never really been too lonely or anything, because if you're within a 5 foot radius, I will come talk to you. So I will talk to you. I will find out what you like, and then I'll try and, because that's just the way I am. I cannot handle awkward silences or something like that, and I've always thought. So I think I wouldn't be very welcome in Finland, maybe. But, they like to stand 6 feet apart from each other. But I would probably talk to you from 6 feet away. So yeah, I mean, in between for 3 months or something, I had to move to another city for my internship, and that's the first real time that I was alone, and I found that experience quite refreshing. In fact, I didn't end up making too many friends. I mean, I had people, we had colleagues in office, and we used to speak and all of that. But the time that I really enjoyed was the time by myself, because I could do what I wanted, and be that feeling of being alone in a crowd was like actually it was quite nice for me. It was different. I was there thinking things about people and looking around, and nobody had an idea of who I was, and nobody gave a shit about who I was, and in a weird way that was fun for me.
Yes. So I think an important way to kind of battle this problem of loneliness is that if you feel lonely, you might try to, I don't know, to think about yourself, right? To learn how to be comfortable with yourself, because if you're fully comfortable being alone because you're so interested in your own thoughts, in what you're doing, in observing your environment, whatever it is, that you have passion for, then, I mean, I don't want to say you don't need people, but you don't need to be constantly around people, and I don't know, for me, I love being alone sometimes, even for months at a time. I have no problem just being alone, because it just gives me time. It gives me time to think or to focus on whatever I want to do, and I love that.
So maybe if you're
But like
comfortable
you
to.
were saying, and like you were saying, I think it's that lack of engagement that forces people to feel the negative side of not having some sort of meaningful, beneficial human connection. So it's like you can be in an elevator full of people and never feel that connection to somebody. In fact, you might be super annoyed that somebody's cross is rubbing against you, and that might be weird. But I mean, it's just that it's a lack of engagement, I think.
And I think that if you're more comfortable with being alone, it's less likely to feel lonely. Maybe that's how it's going to be, because, like I said, I'm exactly the opposite. Like most people are. Like some people are surprised by that, but I don't quite like. I never want to just like, oh, let's go and meet people. I'm the one who is going to run from Shas. He's coming come and talk to me. He's, hey, hello. I'm like, not speak English.
Yeah.
Like Tio freaked out when the girl at the grocery store was like, "So how are you?"
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Oh, how are you? And I was like, did I steal anything? Did I do something wrong here? Like, I was like, man, no hablo español.
He stopped going to a pizza place when the guy started talking to him.
Because every time I went to that place, the guy was like engaging with me. So how are you? So you work here? And I was like, fuck, I will not come here anymore. I stopped going there. Like, I like the pizza, but I just stopped going there. So I'm exactly the opposite, but I don't feel lonely. That's the important thing here. I don't feel lonely. I can spend. I think you can put me on a ship and send me to Mars for the next 4 or 5 years, and I'll be like, that's fine. I don't think I'll be like, I'll miss that much. Maybe now that I've met a few wonderful people and I care about them, maybe I'll miss that. But I didn't force that on myself. So I think that the recipe here is that being comfortable with being alone and knowing what you want to do. Like, I find passion in other things. I cannot wait to come home, even when I was alone, to come home and work on TROM. Write a book. Make some videos or learn about the world. The internet is a fantastic place if you know how to navigate it. You can learn about everything. You can watch documentaries. It's amazing. So I've never really felt lonely.
Would you feel lonely though if you didn't have access to the internet?
I didn't have access much to the internet when I was in high school. It wasn't that much of the internet, but I could still find way. I was thinking about stuff. I was spending hours and hours thinking about stuff, or other people who travel. They like to explore other places. They don't need the internet. You can find stuff in the world.
Yeah, like I didn't use the internet all that much, and I would be alone. Like, I don't know, going through Indonesia or New Zealand or wherever, and through like my whole adult life, I've lived in different places. Like every few months, I would live in a different place, and I would have different groups of people here and different groups of people like that I interact with there, and then sometimes not that many people. And I don't know, there were like times where I would feel a little bit like scared in a way, because I'm like, fuck, I'm like so detached from anything. Like, I have no home, I have no like group of friends. But I don't think loneliness though was an issue. I don't know. Even without constantly being on the internet,
I would also add that if like a person does feel lonely or like very suicidal, and many people do kill themselves in the world, like over like 1 million people and stuff like that, and I would say that it's not their fault, and it's important to bring about this message, because I don't think people really dig into it and stuff like that, and many people think, oh shit, it's maybe just my own fault and stuff like that, maybe I should just speak more to people and be a part of a group or whatever. But many people just are not in the situation, sadly, to be able to, deal with themselves and feel comfortable in their own body, or have access to friends to support them and stuff like that. Like if you watch many interviews, this guy called Invisible People interviews homeless people all around the world, kind of, and you really get to see what circumstances some people are in, and other people are just outcasts of their society, and there's not much you can do. They're just screwed in a way, and that's the situation they're in. And it's really, I think, great maybe for them to realize that it's maybe not their fault, but it's the fact that they're living in a very competitive society that forces some people to be pushed into the outside and have no chance to communicate with other people and don't get really any support of any sorts. So I think knowing that it's not their fault and that they were caused to be in that situation can help some people at least think that, okay, at least it's not my fault. And I said, doesn't mean that they don't, or one shouldn't empower them and be like, okay, you can still change the situation by maybe doing A, B, C, D or whatever. But I think it just helps to realize that it's not anybody's fault as such.
But why does it end up being so harmful? Going through loneliness. Why does it end up being so harmful? What is the biological or scientific? What is the biological aspect of it? What deteriorates the health?
Isn't it a mental?
I think it's yeah.
It's a lack of something.
Okay. I think yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
We're talking each other's mouths. You speak first if you had anything.
No.
Okay, well, I think from a logical aspect that it's like every other animal, an evolutionary thing. That we and other monkeys, we evolved to survive by working together. And our body has a kind of mechanism that if we don't work together, then it will not reward us, or it will even punish us, our own bodies. So maybe the feeling of depression because of loneliness is the body punishing you for not working together with other people, and therefore having a lower chance of survival.
Is that true? How true is that?
I think so.
There might be some evolutionary aspects there for sure. Because I don't know how scientifically valid this is, but if you are alone, like back in the day as a monkey or whatever, or you were living in a tribe, you were kind of fucked maybe because you weren't able to sustain yourself. So maybe there's some elements that were kept on going like that. I don't know.
But the fact that for me, I fucking hate people usually, and I don't like that. It's like it's almost like I shouldn't survive in a sense. Like maybe in my genes, something different. So I think this evolutionary adaptation, I think they might hold some truth, but it's also a lot of assumption. So it's I don't know how you can ever prove that. Yeah, it's a nice theory in the sense that maybe that's why we are suffering, but I don't suffer when I'm not around people. So I think it depends how you get used to your environment. It can be people, it can be stuff that you do, it can be your hobbies, it can be. There are so many people who, again, they don't have any friends, but they feel completely fine. Like they have a perfectly great life and fulfilling life. So I feel like it's a lack of something. I think we are suffering because we lack something. What is that? For many people, maybe other people. But I feel like when you think about the fact that you lack people, I think it's also more like a simplistic mindset because of the society doesn't teach people that there is a whole world out there of fantastic things, mysteries and monsters. Okay, it's a lot out there. So if you have a simplistic mind, I will feel like you want to hang to other people because that's what the society teaches us. Like, oh, I feel alone. I need someone. I need a friend to listen to me. I'm not saying I don't have a simplistic mind, but I'm saying that other people who may think more about this complex world and know about this complex world, they will find some passions. They will find something to drive them. That is not only people. Because if you rely on other people, then it can be a resource that is sometimes scarce because of the environment. So you might get fucked up. And also people change. I remember when I was in school, sometimes I had this the best friend. Maybe everybody had this kind of best friend. And sometimes I was thinking in 5-6 years, will I be still best friends with this guy? And it was always no. It's in 2-3 years you have a new best friend, And things change so much that if you are completely dependent on groups of people and other people, then you get fucked. Look at the relationships. There are people who are completely dependent on being in a relationship with someone. And if they are not, then they are fucked, It's almost like someone said, it's almost like going shopping when you are very hungry, that you never, the decisions are not very good. When you go into the supermarket and your stomach is growling, it's oh my God, I'm so hungry. You'll buy any kind of shitty food. Same in relationships. When you are alone, if you are so used to being in a relationship and you want to find a partner, you probably will find the shittiest kind of, because you get dependent. That's what I'm saying. You get dependent on that. That's
Yeah,
my
I-
opinion.
I have a friend like that who, the day that she'll break up or the boyfriend breaks up with her, she breaks up with the boyfriend, she gets the new one straight away. And just like this dependency, like she cannot be alone. Yeah, and I guess I would say I think it's a problem if you can't be alone, if you're not comfortable with being alone.
I would say that like you definitely need people as a kid, like when you come into this world and stuff like that. I mean, otherwise, I don't know how you would learn anything and how to speak a language and also like touch and be able to, unless you then become a feral child or something of those sorts. So like in the early development, you definitely need human contact. I mean, unless you create some kind of AI system or something else, maybe, I don't know. But once you're able to sustain yourself independently, however that might be in this world, because it's difficult to sustain yourself independently, then being alone, of course, if you have other interests and you can pursue that, that's fantastic.
I think it's also a big difference between like something that is a feral child who's like completely ignored this extreme environment, and then the nuances, the shades of gray between like someone who's like growing up in a family who doesn't quite give a shit and someone who's like growing up in a family that gives a lot of shit. I think between these people may not be as much of a difference. It depends entirely on their future environment, because I know people who are like parents who don't give a shit about their kid, and then there are others who are giving a lot of shit about their kid, and maybe which one is better, those helicopter parents, or there's the other ones who are like maybe missile parents, like they go in another direction. I don't know how the fuck to call them. But I think it's of course it's true that human beings need touch and interaction. They have to learn from something. But I also think that maybe some people may push this idea maybe too much, because maybe it's also depending on the future environment. It's all about the environment, but I'm just like, I'm not so into people, so I'm going to be like in the other side of the discussion. I don't know, man. I'm not that
Maybe
social.
you're also not a woman who needs to breastfeed if you were to have a kid and shit like that.
Oh, I will not breastfeed.
But I think there's a big difference though between babies and little kids being alone and adults being alone. I think there's a crucial, I think there is a need for babies and kids to be nurtured, to have this intimacy, to not develop psychological issues in the end. But then after you're an adult, I think that's different then. I think loneliness is more psychological, if you can't be alone.
So everyone, as they're growing up, should spend some time learning to get comfortable being by themselves for extended periods of time. And then you should probably use that time to find something that, keeps you engaged, that allows you to be, by yourself for that extended period of time. And if you can find that, I think being on your own can be quite rewarding.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's about like learning how to be alone. I think it's more about finding something that you're passionate about, and you're interested in, and having your own kind of thoughts that you can, enjoy your own time with yourself, whether you're alone or not, rather than just learning to like cope with yourself by yourself. It should be, you should kind of embrace, wanting to be with yourself. You should want to be with yourself,
I was just gonna add to that. You have to diversify your interests, otherwise you'll whatever that particular one thing, whether it's socializing or playing a particular game or whatever it is, if that gets taken away, then you'll find yourself out of sorts and not know what to do.
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's people or an object or sport, whatever, it still gets the same sort of consequence.
Yeah, and that's the problem in today's world, because everyone is pushed not to find what they really are passionate about and what they love doing, but they're all pushed to find a way to make money, and usually that way to make money is something they hate, and they end up, in this cycle of living this shitty life that they hate, going to some job that they hate, and they don't even know what they're passionate about, and they feel like they need some nice people to at least, enjoy some moments with, because they don't even know, what they can do with themselves. So again, it comes down to society.
But I would completely agree with like diversifying your interests, because like if you have a girlfriend and then she leaves you or whatever, and you have something else to back it up, it's like, okay, you can focus on that, and if that fails, you can focus on something else. So having like 5, 7, or 20 different interests, you're less likely to, in a way, get like bummed out because you have more pillars to stand on. Or yeah.
I mean, a girlfriend really shouldn't be a replacement for something that is fun for you to do. I mean,
a girlfriend?
Yeah.
I guess that
depends
on
what you like
to do. Some people, it might be their hobby.
Let's say that a human partner or partners. I don't know. It's 2019. But beyond that, you see, even when you look at a family unit, I think the typical family unit, a mom, a dad, and some siblings, it's new to many parts of the world, especially my part of the world. My parents, they grew up in very large families. They have my mom has 4 brothers and a sister, and my dad has 2 sisters and 3 brothers, and that's just their own blood. That's just their siblings, and then the cousins. All of them live together in one house. So at any time, you would have 20 kids, and the 20 kids would be raised by 2 moms at least, right? 2 aunts, 3 aunts together. They usually ended up developing behavioral traits that allowed them to be more adjusted to other people. They didn't sort of crave loneliness or anything. What they did go without was a sense of private space. Right? So these are the kind of people who sit very close to you, and they don't really, because they're used to being more closer to each other. The upside of that is that if somebody's mom or dad was a shitty parent, it's very unlikely that an entire family would be a family filled with shitty parents. You'd have somebody to actually raise the children. So I think that when people grow up in larger communities, in a more communal setting, people generally end up being healthier and more well adjusted.
Yeah, and if someone dies, for example, and I stayed with this family in Indonesia where they had the same sort of setting. Everybody took care of all these kids, and the girl that I met that spoke English, her mom had died, but she was talking about all her aunts as her mom. She's like, my mom here, my mom there, and she was talking about her dad was alive, but she called all her uncles her dad, and I never knew who she was talking about, like which dad, so in a way that's nice if the family protects.
I think that's a very important point when you're thinking about these cities, especially when you design housing. I think now it's catching on, especially in Denmark. I remember a while ago, maybe 6 months ago, there was this Danish architect, and she was talking about co-living. A bunch of apartments with a shared kitchen, cooking, dining space where everyone pitches in, and you get to cook and eat with the community and the people. That's not very new at all. Here in India, that we have buildings called up north, they're called Havelis and other things. That multiple families live together, and it's usually 1 or 2 families that cook and stuff like that. Usually, these Havelis are filled with one single family, and multiple cousins, they all live together. The cousins, uncles, aunts. You see a stronger community character in that kind of setting. So in that way, I think when you design cities and housing, you should really plan for that, where you have the opportunity to not only run into people, whether they're like-minded or not, but you have the opportunity to work with people and do meaningful things.
Because you're sharing resources. You're sharing the kitchen, like
Yeah, you
the
send
cooking
in
together.
resources and tools, so you can cooperate, and that builds more meaningful. I feel that builds more stronger and meaningful bond, as opposed to forcefully going through an app and selecting people that you would like to, be friends with or something. It's bizarre.
I think one
The
thing
whole
that
Tinder thing. I like
Like-
this guy, so I'm gonna swipe. Oh, okay. You come and talk to them. There are probably people like Theo, they will run away from you, but find out where they live and go stand outside their door.
Oh no. They will just hide until there's no more food.
And keep looking at them through the windows, and you have to come out sometime.
Tio was like, fuck your future.
I think that like for me what always worked. So for example, when you say you find a cure for your loneliness in other people, people are a resource. Maybe if you can look at it like that. And if the resource is scarce and if you don't have access to this resource, then probably you will feel that loneliness. That's why you are talking about communal things and this kind of new designs that may force some communities. For me, what I always relied upon was, it might sound strange for many people, but it was always the universe, because the universe is always there, and it's always like, it's something that will not bail on me unless I will fucking lose my mind, and then I cannot think about it. But the universe itself, like every time I was maybe a bit feel lonely or depressed, I was thinking about this vast universe and from atoms to galaxies to, I'm like, fuck, I know, I'm part of this, I'm part of something that is so huge, so big, and I want to know more about it. Maybe it's the same feeling that other people have about communities. Like, oh, I'm part of this community. I love this community, I'm someone there, I can find myself in that community. So for me, because I rely on, let's say, the universe, the reality, what we discover through science, is something that will not go away. And even if you put me into a prison cell, I will still have that. You cannot take that from me unless you make my mind so busy and so fucked up that I cannot even use that anymore. But it's less likely for me maybe to feel lonely when I know that I'm part of this grand story that we uncovered so far. So for me, that's the most beautiful thing that I carry with me all the time. Every time I was depressed, I was thinking about that. And I was like, fuck this shit, this reality is so mind fucking blowing. And I was going online and reading about something, or I was thinking about like, wow, what the fuck are these atoms? What is this air that we can feel all around, And I'm like, an empty room, it can be the most unbelievably complex thing, that you can ever imagine. The particles that they react there, the air, that you suck in that atmosphere thing and you get it out, and you suck it in and you get it out. And I'm like, are we also part of the atmosphere, So all of this mindset to me makes me not feel quite lonely, because I know I'm part of this story. So I also want to bring this aspect, because most people feel focused on other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've also been able to cope better because I had things that I like to do, even though other people would call it loneliness, like you. Just learning different things and seeing how the world works makes you a bit more comfortable. Even though your body like kicks in and says it's very bad, be depressed, you can sometimes work a bit against it if you have more knowledge. That's the good thing about knowing a lot of things about the world. Like about money problems. Oh, I don't have any money. Some people say I'm a failure, but we know we are not necessarily a failure just because we don't have a lot of money.
In
we
most
feel a
cases,
bit better. We know how it works.
In most cases, the body will follow the mind. So try to the more you change the way that you think, the more your body will follow. So you'll feel relaxed because it's the change. Probably that's why the body may react. Like for me, it reacts exactly the same way that you say, but with people. Like it reacts. I have this puking vomit kind of reaction when I'm around many people, and I'm like, oh, people coming over, and I'm like, I get so stressed. I'm like, my face gets red, my body's inflating, oh my god, I'm exploding. That's what happens to me because I got so used to being alone. And actually, that's why I realized, because when people come over, I have these kind of friends. I don't know what the fuck those are, but I have some. when they come over, and they take away from me my free time that I was spending learning about the world, creating Trom stuff. They take that away from me. So maybe it's a reaction of my body saying, "Motherfucker, you have to write some books now. Not stay there and play some cards with those people. Do some work." So you see, it depends how your mind gets used to, with whatever it gets used to. But you always should create a society where if people would be more will know more about this world. I'm always thinking about this. If they knew more about this world, maybe they wouldn't feel that alone, that lonely. When they are when they don't find other people. Maybe they will find something there. Maybe they will scratch their itch of curiosity. But of course, it's fucking difficult in this world when people have to fucking work all day long. They get busy, and everybody gets stuff from them: their attention, their data, their this, their that, their time, their energy. Yeah.
And everyone's so fucked up from school because it was so stressful that they don't even want, they didn't want to learn anything else once they get out of school. They're like,
Cody.
Yes.
How lonely are you, man?
I'm pretty fucking Canadian, lonely winters up here in my igloo, and just me and my polar bear. I don't know, man. It's getting pretty
you got
rough.
some cool lights, though.
The lights are my friends. Yeah.
How do you cope? How do you cope with these kinds of things?
Trying to cope with things, honestly. Things, I guess, trying to find those hobbies. So, for me, my thing is, video games, just something that's, automatic for me, and just fucking, I'll shut off whatever. But I'm in a new era where I've been one of the people seekers. I was one of the people seekers. So I was almost never alone in the sense, I never thought of myself as lonely because there was always someone or something. Whereas now it's I've said it. It's I don't know how long this is going to fucking go on for, but now I got to deal with it kind of thing. So right now I'm dealing with that with some hefty drugs and some video games.
That's a drug.
For me, I guess the lacking is almost not even necessarily the human communication itself, but that because of this whole I'm awakened or one of these woke people or whatever, it's I would just like somebody to bounce this kind of shit off of or something, but in those people, those like-minded people, or those maybe agreeable or at least open to more open people are
people that have the same understanding.
Same understanding, or at least can have their mind is open to the possibility that there's not just liberal conservative and you're this or that, just not this black and white thinking, that there's some sort of critical thinking happening inside the person's brain. Those people seem like they're getting a little trickier to find. But yeah, with the Theo was saying, with the huge narcissistic push of social media and stuff, where the kind of loops that are getting rewarded is these loops or whatever, where it's, oh, I got 10 likes on this photo, so more of this kind of thing instead of maybe what you would have posted without those 10 likes, and then wherever that takes you into 2019, where we are now. It's and Shaz, I am also on one of those people swiping things. You do the thing. And I'm specifically looking for friends. But it's I'm asking myself every day. It's we both, not only do you have to both agree on each other, but you have to do it with just this little tidbit of information, if they even give you that, and it's not just the face and not the book kind of thing.
I mean, you are so much more than what you can fit on an app, and you are going to be so much more. Everybody, even if you're the most basic 98% potato human being, you are more than what you will ever fit on an app. I mean, you just have to irritate somebody to figure out, what makes them tick. Everybody is in some way is twisted in some way. You know, you just have to piss them off to figure it out. Or,
I don't like doing that.
Yeah, you just have to go irritate somebody the wrong way, and somebody is going to like it, and then eventually there's a weird connection. You find each other mutually tolerable, and how I don't know. It's just this app. It feels like
Disposable human.
No, it feels like an intermediary that tells both of you who you should be so that you can interface with each other. And I feel that kind of takes away the awkwardness of it. You know, the whole interesting thing is being awkward with somebody else. You know, you figure out, and then that person did not just say that, or like, because I will show you, I can probably fit a coin in between my teeth, my front teeth. If I meet you in person, I will tell you that about me. I know you don't want to know that. You never asked for it, but I will tell you. And you will remember that. You know, he's that weird guy who told me this stupid shit. I didn't want
That's right.
But I don't know how else to interface with you. And I won't follow the rules of some app, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's better to go on it on my own. I would remember what I would... that's the whole fun of it, you know. There is some work that is to be involved, and you don't always have to get it right. It's more fun to get it wrong and then go tell other people about it where you fucked up, you know. There was this guy I really wanted to be friends with one day, but then I told him something super weird, and then he just stopped talking to me, and I was like, okay.
Whoops.
We want to see the coin trick now.
Yeah, I got a tuning here if you can.
Yeah, I go get a coin.
You'll make some friends, Chas.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that we are more lonely today or nowadays than 100 years ago? Whatever you guys consider loneliness to be.
I think the people who think that they feel lonely are. Like maybe the intensity that you feel just because of like you have the offset is like the hyper connectivity of everything, and that, you know, I can talk to you over all you guys over in Spain right now, and like the whole world seems like, you know, they're having a great time on their social media or whatever, and you have that complete just skew. And then you can just, I mean, you cycle that a couple times in your mind, you'll spiral real quick.
I think probably more people are becoming more lonely because of social media, I would say. Especially Instagram. Fucking hate Instagram. I will say, because it hijacks your time, your attention, and what you do in life. Because right now people are so busy just trying to broadcast their own lives, to show their lives to other people, that they have no time to actually live their lives. You know, they have no time to develop themselves. And I say this because I spent the last 2 weeks as like a hiking guide in Turkey for a group of people. And most of them, for like 15 people, most of them were constantly filming themselves. And it's no longer just like taking pictures of pretty spots. Now it's okay. You have to video yourself going onto a bus. You have to video yourself getting from here to there. You have to video yourself talking to this person. You have to take pictures of every fucking single thing you do, and you have absolutely no time to just sit down, enjoy the beautiful view around you, just enjoy a moment with the person you're actually with. Instead, you have to take your fucking phone and film what you're doing with this other person. So it's like it's hijacking our time, like that we can spend with other people, because people just want to fucking, I don't know, impress other people or what.
I think today it's the discrepancy between, like, in a way, I think it's what Cody was saying, is the discrepancy between people always broadcast their happiness, and they're always like, because of companies reward them, companies reward their, you know, their engagement. So because of that, everybody seems to have a super great time, because that's what Facebook and Instagram is this fakery of life, you know. This broadcast is happiness. And maybe people will feel more and more lonely nowadays because of this thing, because they will measure their lives based on what they see there. And then they see a fake life. You know, it was this great, interesting video showcasing how, like, to make fun of all of this loop of fake happiness when some guy, you know, goes and takes a photo of himself, like he was in the car but he was like, oh, I went for a run. Someone sees the photo and be like, oh, he was in an office but he's taking a photo and be like, oh, I'm having so much fun in my office. And then others sees that office photo and then they influence this kind of loop of fakery that actually has nothing to do with the real life. So maybe in that sense today people feel more lonely because they put their life in perspective with what they see online.
And they try to compete with it. And
Yeah,
while they're
you
trying to
cannot
compete
compete
with
with
it, while they're trying to compete with it, they're wasting their own lives. And rather than living their lives, they're just filming it, you know, filming the fakeness.
So would you guys say that it's like technology or the fact that people are competing with the devices that they're using on these platforms and stuff like that?
I would say nothing. I was saying it's what is behind. It's behind is the incentive of these companies to make this app specifically to keep you trapped in there. That's what they like, you know. Today, likes and friends are an asset, you know. It's something that you can use in today's world. How many likes you have, how much engagement do you get?
How much attention you get.
Yeah.
How much attention
How
do you
much
get?
you can sell.
Yeah. Are you an influencer?
Yeah, every software, any product tries to get people addicted to it, and they are well aware of that. As far as I can see from some of the interviews with software engineers at big companies, for example. I've also read, it's so get more users. That's how money works. It's not about human welfare. It's about users and products and money in the end and resources.
It's not just about the. Oh, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it's not just about the company's game, like this gaming mentality of, you know, getting everyone hooked. It's also the fact that in the past you wouldn't have had a clue what Bob, the next town over, was doing. Well, now you know, you're comparing yourself to the whole entire world, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And the next thing's geting shown. Otherwise, you wouldn't have known any difference.
Yeah, and Bob's coolest photos. You know, it's very fake Bob life.
It's like, what are you doing here in your country as well? Like, why aren't you all the way in Indonesia having a blast or elsewhere and stuff like that? So it's tricky because you're also getting like compared on a global scale now. Yeah. It's not just what's happening in your little town or city or country. It's globally, yeah.
And it's so sad because, like, okay, this trip that I just went on in Turkey, it's like the entire moment, whatever you do, it's no longer important that we go to like this beautiful canyon and we look at this amazing like sunset over the canyon. No. What's important is I get the best photo of myself in this pretty place. And the whole thing turns into this huge fuckery of photos. Like the whole thing is about photos. As soon as you get somewhere, they want photos of themselves. You know, it's not about let's enjoy the moment. Not at all. That's I think is the status, and then that's how you lose value in your own life, and then you become lonely, of course.
Yeah, and I would. Okay.
No, because I have something long to say.
Okay. I was just gonna say that, like, to me personally, there's still a beauty in filmmaking, and like, and like going to a place and like filming the sunrise and getting like a nice story in for personally, not to share it with anybody else, but I would like to do it for myself, for in the future look back and stuff like that. So I think, but the thing is, because everybody is doing it, it's like if I was to go on such an experience and somebody else was to film it or whatever to get a nice perspective to remind myself of it, that would be great. But because everyone is doing it and like competing for who has the better footage and shit like that, that's what like messes things up a bit.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference between like doing something as an art, making a cool film of whatever, you know, and just making it about let me get photos of myself here so I can post it on Instagram as fast as I can.
Yeah.
And but like for example, we hiked to this really beautiful mountain. We were above the clouds, and there's this fucking building on top of the mountain with Wi-Fi. And I saw people there, like all sorts of people that were already like commenting about the photos that they posted on Instagram. You know, so they went there, they took the photos of themselves on this pretty mountain, they already uploaded them, and they're already commenting on them. So it just hijacks your whole attention, you know, of being there. Whereas, okay, if you go somewhere and you want to do some filming and you also enjoy the moment and you enjoy the process of filming. I think it's different.
I think to go a bit back to what Dave was saying, so I agree that this online world opened doors that we couldn't open before. Like you know what Bob from China is doing, and like Ching Han from UK or the other way around they were doing. It's true, but I think that the fault is of the incentive of these big companies, because this online world also opened doors and windows to other things. Like how many people are curious to see, for example, before that they didn't have access to so many books about, I don't know, biology and evolution and galaxies and stars and so much other information. Are they that curious? I'm not sure if they are that curious. I think that they just are trapped by some tools that took advantage of these little opened windows towards Bob and others by companies like Facebook, and they trap people with something very simplistic, with other people's lives, and they trap them there, and they made it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's such an advantage for them because they are not the ones who create the content, the companies. People are the ones who create the content, so it's the easiest door that it could open and can take advantage of. I'm not sure it's a more be like a human thing to want to know what the neighbor is doing, as much as it is a cultural thing that teaches us, to be like to take a look of what others are doing, gossip, in this kind of environment. Because I know for sure in my experience and other people's experience that there are so many people who are not like that. Don't give a shit. I don't give a shit who posts on Facebook and what they post about. So I think that's how it maybe is. The world was open in front of us, but the companies took advantage of those particular windows that were very easy to monetize, I would say.
I agree exactly what you said. I was trying to talk from the individual's perspective as opposed, you know what I mean? So I think you're kind of lucky to experience a bit of loneliness. Otherwise, like, you wouldn't be able to escape your environment and you would be part of that, the masses all joining in whatever's culturally relevant at the time. Yeah.
but nevertheless, it's I think we created we abused these notions of friendships and relationships with these platforms. I think I say those companies, I didn't abuse them, but maybe if I was behind those companies, I would do the same. But they abuse them. Like I've seen this interview with Mark Zuckerberg, the guy from Facebook, Facebook, and he was like, "Oh, we are all about communities. We want to grow communities." And the interviewer was like, "Yeah, but what if do you care about people staying on your platform or just going out in the communities and doing stuff?" He was like, "No, I also care about people going out, but don't you rely, on people staying on your platform?" And he was a bit like confused in his answer. He's like, yeah, we also need people, but not that much. Of course, motherfucker, you need people to stay there. It's not like Facebook is for communities, Facebook it's a tool for attention grabbing, and they advertise them like that. It's a great documentary. It's the Silicon Valley something on VideoNet. You can find, just search for Silicon Valley. Is this guy who goes to these companies to showcase how they rebrand them in this very evil way. Like Airbnb is not about making a profit from renting apartments. No, it's connecting people. It's giving them an opportunity to travel. Uber is not this kind of taxi company. No. They allow people to go from one place to another. Everybody's like, oh, we allow people to do stuff. You don't allow people to do stuff. You're mainly making a business out of that. But they rebranded so powerfully that people kind of took the bait. Like completely got scammed into this. And especially now with social networks where you cannot fucking escape it. Because if you are on it, you basically have to play the game, play by the rules. You have to post all the time. You have to impress other people. It's hard not to get trapped by them.
Yeah, with these social networks, I think what it allows you to do is to present a very edited version of your life, to seem as though most of your life is more interesting than it is. it's not just with the filters or anything. It's with your feed or your wall or your stream or whatever it is. You can present an edited version of your life. Not everyone has to look at your life the way you live it. You have a choice on how people see your life. And maybe for some people that's to seem more interesting, maybe it allows them to do that for whatever reason, that they want to seem more interesting. Maybe they are dissatisfied with the way their lives are. Maybe they feel good knowing that other people are looking at them in the way that they want to be seen. That's probably for people who get most of their happy juices from what other people think about them. It's a very potent tool, don't you think?
I think what you project, your projections are always going to bite your ass in the end. Of course, it's the society that pushes you in all kinds of corners, but it's also your projections that are, of course, hijacked, like we discussed about the social networks. So it's like projections. I've seen these kinds of when people go to some bar or somewhere and they just stay on their phones and they take a photo and they're like, oh, we are at this bar, and then they do nothing. They just stay there and they just don't even talk with each other. But then that photo will be seen by some other dude or girl who was not part of this, and they stay at home and they're like, it will encourage them to feel lonely, I would say, by this parallel with whatever they see online. So it's something like, because we are influenced by these companies, we fuck ourselves over with this kinds of shit that is almost like a disease. And I think this is a huge part. This was the point. Because Seb was asking, do you think people are more lonely today than they were in the past? So to that, I will say that because of the social networks and all of this fuckery, people project, because of the projection of what their life should be, their happiness should be, they may feel more lonely than it was in the past. That's what I would say.
And again, because those two people sitting at the bar, they're not actually spending quality time with each other when they're so busy taking photos of each other and then posting it and then commenting on it instead of actually having a conversation with each other. And I think more people live in big cities. I think people are constantly moving to big cities where they lack communities. And where there's more of this competition and bullshit.
How do you think, let's say, Aaron, how do you think you can cope with if you feel whenever you feel lonely, maybe you felt lonely, how do you cope with it? What do you do?
Yeah, I worked mainly on TROM. Yeah, so I just translated books. Yeah.
So you also found this thing, like you can be alone, but you won't feel lonely because you are busy with these kinds of things. Do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, that helps.
Find some shit you like to do, basically. Really like to do by. Find something that gives you that sort of good, positive engagement. You won't have time to feel lonely.
Something that's important, For me,
even if it's making Legos, making some things with Legos, just get really damn good at it. Like keep pushing yourself.
Yeah.
And don't share it with anyone. Don't put it up on any Instagram or something. Just randomly.
How am I supposed to virtue signal?
There's a section on YouTube or somewhere. This documentary called Lego is by someone from I think BBC or Channel 4, and it's about this guy who was very passionate about Lego, and he was making these really fucking cool things. And then the Lego company, they saw the guy's work, and then they kind of hired the guy. The documentary ends up in a positive way, but they hired the guy, and now the guy has to do this as a job,
Oh,
and then
shit.
you have to do specific Lego blocks, you have Lego, I don't know, sceneries from, so this will become a really fuckery. You'll transform your passion into your work. That's always kind of fuck things up, I would say.
Yeah.
Mostly, So speaking of making Legos, because you enjoyed making them.
How can we use someone else's passion to sell more of our plastic bricks?
Did we just lose?
Yeah, I think he's gone.
Hello?
Yeah, I think I lost my connection on Facebook.
You lost two.
2.
Theo lost connection?
What? No,
Yeah, I
lost
think so.
connection.
I see everyone here. I see everyone here.
I
I
Nothing.
think he's
Everything's
talking in
good.
another room. Hold on.
I see you.
I
I
heard
see you.
I was going to say, I thought there was
I
next to
see
each
everybody.
everybody's here. Everything's fine. Everything's not on fire. Please remain calm.
Have you
How did
guys
you- how
heard
did you
of this guy
teleport?
called Johan Hari, who talks about like depression and loneliness and stuff like that?
Yeah.
No.
He's, I think, from the UK, half British, half Swiss, or something like that.
Is he the guy who says
Don't
like drug-
think so.
No, he's just I think wrote a book called Lost Connections, and I listened to 1 or 2 podcasts with him on, and he talks about the subject quite well, I think, and also mentions social media and many other aspects.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of the guy.
Yeah, quite interesting.
What was the guy's name?
Johan Hari, I think. Yeah.
Harari. Or something.
Harari, yeah.
You will Noah Harari.
No.
And yeah, he said
No.
the opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah.
And of course, that also comes from Gabor Mate and other things like that. And many people who, like, of course, get addicted to alcohol and stuff like that, they don't feel connected to anything else. And this is also being addicted to something is also a part of loneliness. Like many homeless people drink a lot and stuff like that. But if you feel connected, you don't necessarily have to be connected to other people, like Theo is connected to the universe and stuff like that. But if you feel connected to something, whether it's like surfing or skateboarding or making videos or whatever, then you can kind of maybe get yourself out of an addiction.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's having a passion for something and then pursuing that passion. You know, I think so long as you're doing that, then you don't need this extra substance, you know. I mean, it's hard to say, of course, if you're already down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. It's always good to have a backup as well. Like if your passion is maybe like, skiing or some shit, and then your legs break, or you can't do, or you get injured and stuff like that. Always good to maybe have some other things that you like to do.
You need redundancy.
Yeah.
Couldn't you still do it with like a really wide ski board?
So everyone else disconnected?
yeah, I don't know what happens to everybody.
For me, it works perfectly fine.
But for me, like, I don't know, whenever I felt this kind of, disconnection from the world, like I was saying, like, after like, years of like moving different places and like having different groups of friends and stuff. And, there were some times where I had, where I didn't particularly feel lonely, but I felt like, what the fuck am I doing in general in this world, and what, where, I don't have a home, I don't have a community, I don't have anything, and I felt like scared in a way sometimes because I just have like this huge like disconnection from anything. But what kind of brought me back together was just realizing, what are we? We're just these little beings on this planet, which is just a little tiny planet in the huge universe. Our lives are so tiny, just small and basically insignificant, so what's really important, it can be important for some people to have community and have a home, but does that mean it has to be important for me? No. I mean, so what's important is just to find passion, find something worth living for.
Yeah,
And for me, like the more I learned about the world, the more I learned about how fucked up the world was and how we could fix problems, the more that kind of gave me purpose, like my own purpose, not saying like a grand fucking purpose, but my own purpose in my own life, to work towards real sustainability on this planet, and then from that I can see, okay, my own little problems of feeling disconnected or feeling like I don't have a community or like I don't have a home or maybe loneliness or whatever, it's not really that important, like,
Yeah, look at this.
compared to the existence of the world and
I
sustainability.
think it doesn't work.
No, I hear you, Teo. Can anyone else not hear
like
Teo?
many religious
But
people
I don't
think
think
that maybe unreligious people
I don't
feel
think they
very
hear me.
lonely and like empty inside because they don't feel connected to anything higher or whatever. But like it's quite the opposite in terms of if you get to learn about the universe and get into astronomy and stuff like that. And like Carl Sagan always says, it's like a very humbling and character building process where you feel like you're part of a much bigger thing, and you learn that life is maybe a thing that exists in many other galaxies and planets all across the universe, and that we're maybe not that special and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I just realized I think they're still going and we're disconnected. So it's like
just us three?
Us four.
Oh, four.
Four?
Yeah, we're not on? They're live?
No, they're on in a different thing, so I guess we need to exit
No,
this
everyone's
because
live.
you can see I'm not sure if they can hear Tio speak in the other room.
I can hear. Yeah, I can hear everybody.
Yeah.
I'll leave it then.
But I'm not sure which one is on like YouTube and stuff. Because
I'll leave and connect again.
What is happening?
maybe both are on. I don't know.
Cody, you stay connected.
I mean,
okay?
I see and hear you all. I don't see a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, hello?
Carlo, do you hear me?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Okay. So I think
hey,
it was
guys.
just Sasha.
Just saw it.
Okay, now
we disconnected. We kept on going and talking, but
No, we saw everything.
hear.
Everything's
Oh.
good. Just you
But
couldn't
were we
see
still
us,
live?
or
Or-
No, Cody, I cannot hear you. What the fuck?
Ah!
Cody's
Oh
mic
wait,
is
no, that's my
muted.
bad. That's my.
Yeah, your mic is muted, Cody.
Yeah, okay. Problem
Okay,
solved.
Jesus, holy
We back,
moly!
yeah?
Jesus Christ, that was weird.
Can everyone hear everyone? Because everyone's live.
I can-
Nothing has
I
changed.
can hear you.
Yeah, half of you guys were still here. You were talking with each other, but we could hear you, but you could not hear us.
Couldn't hear us.
Oh, okay.
That was
Weird, I could hear everybody.
strange.
Yeah,
Okay, Sasha.
that was.
Welcome back, Sasha.
Welcome back.
Hi. What was that?
We don't know. Everyone was still here.
Yeah, we could hear you, but you could not hear us.
Couldn't hear us.
Ah, weird.
We got hacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard the mic disconnect and then everything went to shit, but nothing changed.
It's a test to see how lonely we feel when we talk on Skype.
Oh my god, I have no more friends.
Oh my god. They all left me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even forgot what we were talking about.
Yeah. I think I can add something. I think you're all right that a purpose or just learning something, doing something, working, making videos or change in the society can be enough to drive you forward in general, even if you don't have many people to talk with and feel close to. I mean, as long as you got the affection as a child, then you will be normally developed, but so it's less harmful as an adult, as you also said earlier, Sasha, than as a child. Yeah, as long as you have something to do, it's fine. But still, it seems to me, when I've been lonely, I could find enjoyment in just using my computer, learning about everything. But I still needed something extra, some kind of drug to keep me going. It was not enough alone to have purpose. So you play computer games, or you drink alcohol. I don't do that, or something else. But now it seems I've gotten some close friends that I can get affection, hugs, and things with. And it seems now that I need to use the computer less. I don't overeat as much. It seems that touch is very important to humans, and if you don't have that, no matter if you need people to talk with or not, you will be a bit more depressed. There's even studies about people feeling that many who do not have touch or some kind of affection, they feel more depressed in general, statistically.
But the studies are made with people from this kind of society who are who are used to this kind of kind of life and this kind of. Then I start to realize that maybe something is fucked up with me. Then I'm like, okay, I think something's fucked up with me, because I was like, when I was in college, I was like going around the entire city to not meet with anyone, to just buy like Coca-Cola bottle, just going back, and I was sweating because I was like, I didn't want to meet with anyone. I was like, fuck people. Why do I like people,
I like to be alone also, in general.
You're just a friendly neighborhood misanthrope.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one of you everywhere. Theo.
I don't
mean,
like people,
just
but I
hate
like
people.
touch.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say maybe some people can do without touch and stuff like that. Like me personally, I of course also like touch and would never like say no to a massage of some sorts or whatever. And I would like for that to also be a part of my life, affection, be with other people. But some people, like I saw this video a while ago about some guy, I think living somewhere in Russia all by himself, like no human contact for several years, 4 or 5 years, in some igloo type cave or something like that. And he had a pretty interesting setup and life there. And he was talking that there were some interviewers that came there, and he was like, "Yeah, I just spend my days in the forest hunting and cutting up wood and different things like that." And he seemed like pretty happy and satisfied. So it can also be a cultural thing in many ways, because people are constantly reminded that you need to be this and that. But
You
so
grow
that
up
depends,
with
yeah.
all of our movies are romantic endings, in search of love, in search of family, in search of comfort, in search of touch. And I would say it's more likely that it's the culture that makes people crave for human attention as a cure, as a remedy for loneliness, maybe. And when you have a different kind of environment, then you will find remedies in other things, and I'm quite happy that I ended up like this, because I rely on myself primarily. So if everybody like forgets about me, I'm not going to suffer. I don't think I'm going to suffer. Like I've been alone so many years. I don't think I'm going to suffer. So that's great. So everything for me, it's a plus. When it comes to like, okay, relationships that I like, friendships that I like, it's a plus. But it can rarely go to a minus. So that's good to at least rely on yourself, because I know people who they just cannot function in this society if they don't have other people around. They don't have something to they feel like fucked, and you may end up and kill yourself because of such things, if you don't find this kind of it's a drug in a way, if you don't know how to be with yourself. Like I feel like today's people, well, I know it could be like a generalization or maybe exaggeration, but maybe today's people, it seems to me that they don't have thoughts anymore. Like they don't have time alone for themselves. All of their time is spent to either as a currency to other like social networks, or as a way for them to keep some relationships going, talking to other people and so forth. But being yourself, just thinking about like, what do I like to do? What should I do? Like, who am I? What is this all around me? Maybe I don't think people have that much inclination for these kinds of things. I've seen a study where like they gave them people an electric shock every 10 minutes, or the option between an electric shock every 10 minutes or being off their phones or something like that, and many of them chose the electric shock every like 10 minutes. Don't take my phone away, because being alone there, they're like, oh my God, it's awful. Who am I? Who's talking in my head? That's bad.
So these people chose to be electrocuted every 10 minutes just so they could keep their phones?
Something like that, yeah.
I also saw one like that about boredom, where people are just put in a room and they have nothing to do, but there's that machine where you can give yourself some shocks, and then people start giving themselves some shocks to feel something, do something.
Hey, what's up?
In a way, you go crazy if you're not stimulated by anything and you can't do anything. And I bet I would do the same. I'm sure I'll do the same. If I'm alone and I can't do shit for like a whole day, you will test the machine out.
Repeatedly.
So let me see if I can get used to getting electrocuted is my only entertainment. I can totally believe that people are like that. I mean, I'm like that. I would do that.
Yeah. So for me, it's so strange from this perspective, because then I see people who want to come here and to visit. I'm fine, I'm okay. I'm also curious to meet some people, of course, but they are very super excited. Like, wow, let's meet up and this. And I'm always like, people who know me closely, I'm so fucking stressed. I cannot sleep. I'm like, I'm like, I don't feel comfortable. Like, I don't feel comfortable. I've never like had a sleepover when I was a kid. I've never slept in anyone's house. I've never like, I'm not like a social eater. I hate that shit. I'm like, I'm eating, I'm gone. I don't stay there for hours to talk to people. How are you? This and that. I can't. So you see, environment can push you to become so different from this perspective. So I don't say that the way I am, it's okay, or the way the rest is okay. But I'm saying it's an advantage, I would say, to rely on yourself in case shit hits the fan, and you end up alone. At least if you rely on something for yourself, on your passion or something like that. I think it's extremely, extremely important. But of course, it's equally important to create a society where people it's more like communal driven society. I mean, you don't have to. People try to push this, like making like communal kitchens, for example. I think it's okay, but I think it's not a way to push it. It's a way to like take the bad influences out. So if people have more free time, to meet with other people and so forth, to have free access to information and so forth, you don't need a communal kitchen. Okay, people will find ways to engage with each other and not feel lonely. You don't have to force it. You have basically to take away what prevents people from not feeling lonely, maybe.
Yeah, especially if there were different projects that different people are passionate about, they will come together to work on this project.
Right.
I think this is a really good example.
Or hobby or whatever.
This is a good example, like Trom, and what we are trying to do now. Like even TROM-Cast, sometimes I even this I hate sometimes. Like even today I was like, I don't know if I want. It bothers me. I don't know. But I'm like, it also gives other people a platform who like this sort of things, who will find meaning in this, and they may feel less lonely because they're like, okay, at least I'm engaging with this. I'm participating in this. I find some like-minded people. Something grows out of this sometimes, So in Trom itself, that's why I'm trying to always give people an opportunity to get involved, translate stuff, create stuff, participate in stuff, discuss stuff, and I think it's extremely important, So at least I'm trying to also do this kind of thing for people. And for example, Carl, now that you're like kind of new to this, it's the first time that you participated. Maybe it also serves you as a platform for you to like feel more engaged with like-minded people, so you don't only rely on your neighbor. In this case, you also have this kind of little community of people that you can engage with. Maybe that's helpful.
It's nice because it is rare to find, like you said, Bodhi. It's a rare Pokemon card.
It is a very rare Pokemon.
I mean, there is no wonder that we are from like I think we are like 6-7 people that are from 6-7 countries. It's not a coincidence. I think it's quite rare. It's quite rare. Yeah.
But it seems, maybe I talk about it a lot, but the same. But yeah, as you said, you can get used to. Maybe you can go away from not having company all the time. You can get used to it. But I mean, in natural environments like old tribes, people were together all the time. And I'm not sure, but probably we are evolved for that kind of living, helping each other and being very close. And as a society, we should be careful on going away from that. What we are biologically made for. We should build our society out from our biology at least. And if it, yeah.
I kind of disagree with that in the sense that here's the thing, if you take that for granted, for example, you should also think that in the past people raped other people. Maybe it was common to kill other people. Maybe aren't we adapted to not move away from these kinds of behaviors? They did all kinds of things that we don't do anymore. They used to walk naked. They used to walk naked and fuck their cousins. So
why not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have nothing against that, but I'm just saying, people change. Change, the environment changes. So I'm always extremely skeptical when people say we drag biology, and this biology makes us behave in a way or want to behave in a way.
Yeah.
I'm just extremely skeptical. Okay, I give you the maybe, let's say you're right, I'm extremely skeptical. Even if you're right, the environment shows that we can change as human beings. We can end up like fucked up like me, who doesn't want friends, You can end up like that.
Well, you can always genetically engineer ourselves so we don't need it anymore if we dare. If we need it.
That it would have to be proven that it just relies only heavily on genetic factors. I don't think there's any evidence so far. If it does come through, then maybe we can fix it. But you have to understand that a big part of being human is the ability to self-condition. And you can train yourself. Like, you just have to find something engaging enough that takes away from, that sort of offsets the negative effects of not having that engagement. Because I feel, I might be wrong about this, but I feel that every time you don't find this kind of engagement, it gets you into this negative feedback loop. And it's kind of like a downward spiral that leads down into depression, and then it's eventually fatal. But that's why I'm more interested in finding out the mechanism for how this exactly works. How being lonely can actually go from being a bad feeling and ouchy to you, like, hanging yourself or something. That would be more interesting for me to understand. So you can help avoid that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I only know my own observations, and one person is not always enough in a study. But, people relate to their own observation the most. That's how humans work, I think. And now I forgot what I was going to say.
To me, if you can take a lion and make the lion like ride a bicycle in a circus, I feel like if you can change the behavior of a beast that's like that, I think it's very likely that for humans you can change the behavior, even if it's something like mean there or something biological. It seems that you could probably change that regardless what it is. That's why some people crave for others to heal their loneliness and others for projects and so on. Look at the Tesla or Nikola Tesla or what's the other guy, like Newton. Those motherfuckers were lonely all of their lives, Maybe they didn't feel that lonely because they were so fucking busy. They're like, as far as I've read about them, I've seen documentaries, they were so fucking busy, they didn't even give a shit about.
So passionate.
So passionate, passionate about what they are doing,
And they're pursuing that passion. I think that's.
But yeah, I read about Nikola Tesla. Yeah. Yeah. The only friends he really had, except the woman he wrote with, as far as they know, some letters from. Yeah, it was pigeons, as you said. He invited them into his hotel room, had nests there, and cried when they died. I mean, why not? Seems just some kind of company, even if it's a cat that's mean to you. Just having something going around is nice.
Yeah, so loneliness it's a relative way. It's relative. It's a feeling, but it depends what triggers it. Depends from people to people what triggers it to feel lonely. And how come the same situation for you can be extremely harmful and you can feel lonely, and for me it can be extremely fruitful. I'm like, oh, I feel so relaxed, or the other way around. To me that sounds like an environmental thing.
No environment is the same. There's many factors that can affect it differently. It might be reacted the same way in the same environment, but there's many, but not necessarily.
I would completely agree and say that it's a very relative and subjective thing. But I'd also say that from like a social perspective, if there are less barriers to be able to do what you want to do, like less trades in that respect. Like in order to come on this podcast, you don't have to do anything. You can just get on there if you have internet, or if you live in a city and you can just come to, whatever you can eat at a communal place, or you can go to a public park, or you can do certain things that you don't have to trade anything for. Then you create maybe a more social atmosphere where anyone can join in and so on. I watched this video the other day of a public ping pong park in New York City that was for free and anyone could come and play there. And that had like such a communal vibe, because it didn't matter like if you're rich or poor or whatever. Everyone just came there after work, just to play some ping pong and connect with each other. And it just showed like the vibes, everything were much more relaxed and chill, and people who enjoyed to do that sport could just hang out and have a good time in a way. But if you can't and you're forced to trade, or you're behind bars like in a prison and stuff like that, and you don't have access to anything, you're screwed in a way because you won't be able to find any type of stimulation. Or if you're homeless, you're kind of screwed because you can't have fun. You can't necessarily do anything much except buy some alcohol to numb yourself, maybe. Yeah.
Or even most people living in big cities, they trade most of their time to their job, to just get money for whatever they need. Then they trade their free time to social media, and whatever other time they have to filming themselves to post on social media. And the whole thing is.
Yeah. Like I think many of us here would like. I mean, if I could tomorrow, go skydiving or like all kind of different things like that, I would do it 100%. But of course, there's an issue in terms of what you can afford and what you can't afford and shit like that as well.
Money is always like the barrier in any subject. It seems it's money that makes the barrier between what we can do and not. It's frustrating that people don't see it always, but that it shouldn't be like that.
This cure or remedy for loneliness doesn't always have to be like a fun thing. Like I said, it can also be extreme passionate to have. Like even if you're stressed out about that passion, if you're extremely passionate, and that's what you're focusing. I'm sure that the motherfucking Tesla, he was like probably stressed out about shit, but probably didn't feel maybe that much lonely, because if you are extremely passionate to solve something, to fix something, to do something, like I feel like I cannot live without these projects that I'm doing. I'm so pissed off and curious about work. I just want to do them. I don't have much time to feel lonely, in a sense. Maybe I don't have a space for feeling lonely. So that's also a thing. It's not only about these cool things that you could do, it's also about like what drives you, So I feel like the more passionate you are about something, the less likely it is for you to also feel lonely, because that takes so much of your time. There are many people like this guy Abu the Grey now, that he's like tries to understand what aging is and how we can tackle it. I've seen many interviews with him and I've read stuff, and he's like so driven by this, like cannot even fucking sleep. He's like, probably the guy is never bored or never feeling lonely. He's also like having all kinds of non-relationships with people. Doesn't quite like that, as far as I've read. So yeah, that's from my side of the thing. Is this traditional side that we're talking about, relationship and people. It's also this other side of like passion and being motivated about stuff. And these are the cures kind of for loneliness. But I feel like you don't solve loneliness by forcing something to society. I think you solve loneliness by taking away those negative forces that make people not be able to build relationships or passions, So that's what you have to do, because we have so many tools at our disposal, but people have very little time. And also education, it's because of this society that we've built. It's nothing but like a cow factory, or like a livestock thing. If kids would be curious to be curious about the world, they will fucking like not look for Bob's photos on Facebook. Probably they will look for like some quarks. What the fuck are quarks? What are gravitational waves? Maybe it will shift the attention in those directions. But yeah, anyways, it's a very interesting topic. Do you guys feel alone? You feel lonely? Who feels lonely? Cody feels lonely.
I'm a lonely Canadian. That's fine. Don't mind.
He's lonely. What about you, Carl?
Oh, Carl, Mike.
Okay. I used to after I dropped out of school, but that was also one of the reasons I dropped out of school, because I had no support to keep me going in something I didn't like. Luckily, because school is horrible. It makes you stupid sometimes. Anyway, but after a year of being mostly alone, too much computers, and spending long nights learning relevant and unrelevant things, right now I'm okay. I mean, you can still be sad and irritated at society, but if you just have some company, some touch, something, then at least maybe you'll have more drive. I don't. It's easier to get up in the morning now, and I don't say I hate my life every day. So that's an improvement, I would say.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Just how lonely are you?
Not at all.
You're a very friendly human being, I suppose, right?
No,
But
I mean, I found you guys. I find other people. So it's like, I mean, I have a very good life. So I have a job, which challenges me every now and then. It's always shit I cannot do, and not enough time for me to do it. And when they give me enough time to do it, I waste most of it. So I find my ways, find ways to keep my heart beating higher than it needs to be. So it's about engagement. The only one time I've ever felt really starved for conversation is just before I met you guys on Trom, because I started thinking about all of these things, and like none of the people I spoke to I could actually relate, and that was mildly frustrating, but it was also interesting because I started to piss people off. So yeah, I get by.
you cannot win us without losing others. So that's how it works.
That's okay. I mean,
The trade there.
it used to bother me that when I was little or when I was younger, that oh no, these people didn't like me, and then after that it turned into oh shit, these people don't like me. How far can I take that?
How is the weed doing for you, Cody?
It helps me have conversations in my own head. I mean, that's yeah. I don't know. It's just if anything, it puts you into. For me, it puts me in the state where I'm not. It's not like this raw kind of like I have time to think about the world kind of thing. It's like I can be thrown into something and only focus on that instead of having maybe like wandering thoughts or spiraling thoughts that might lead me to like, oh, I'm lonely, and then that makes me like spiral and be like more lonely and then do whatever. If my life is full of things, I literally do not have time to go hit the thing. Is like literally how it works, and I've seen it happen before, so I know it's possible. But it's like, yeah, you got to find those things that are like everything that can fill you up before you hit. That is like, oh well, this was fun the last time I did it or whatever.
I seen a video with you. You had like 3D some 3D goggles, and you were
with the I was
that's
with some swords.
Beat Saber, yeah. That's what I'm doing with the green screen and everything. And like, yeah, when I'm in that thing, it's like I'll zone out for like 5-6 hours. But it's like when I take the headset off, it's like, oh God, no, not again. It's all back.
You stay 5-6 hours?
Oh, easy, dude. And that's pretty much the battery life on those controllers. But you can plug them in and play at the same time.
What are you doing in there? You're dancing?
Pretty much, yeah, dancing, archaically swinging my arms, yes.
For 5 to 6 hours.
For 5 to 6 hours, I'm telling you, like, yeah, for sure. It's my heart health is up there. I just need somebody to do the dancing with. That's what I'm
Do
saying.
you film yourself, like when you play video games and you do this?
I've only uploaded the ones that I'm not embarrassed by.
It looks.
It is. You need.
He makes it look easy. All that coordination, I could not do that.
Takes. Yeah, I've been hammering up for a month.
I've tried that around a friend's house, and after 30 minutes, I was knackered.
Yeah, you get warm. You got to condition yourself for that game, definitely at the high level. So, I mean it's definitely giving me more, but it's like that's okay. That's one thing. I need that like. I think being there with you guys and like working closely with Trom might be like that other like little like put the puzzle pieces together kind of thing. That might be it. Or at least if I had like maybe like a little Canadian Trom sect over here and we just got together every now and then in our little igloo. And
why don't you make meetups like
I am?
Siberia?
Tell you what,
if
Sasha.
I can do it in Siberia, you can do it in Canada.
That is true. I will stop being a pussy bitch, and I will put up a discussion for either this weekend or next weekend on Kijiji.
You could meet some interesting people. Possibly.
Yeah. Well, the thing isn't about like meeting people. My worry right now is like you got that like anarchist hangout, right? So if I can get hooked up with something like that.
In the beginning, I just did it in a cafe.
Oh, you did in like just like a public space, like a restaurant.
Yeah,
Kind
I just went to
Okay.
a cafe. I brought my laptop. I downloaded like one Trom video ahead of time, and I put a meeting on Couchsurfing, like a meetup.
All right.
So people showed up. And then I told them, I told them who I am and what I'm doing, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to watch one video per week, and then we're going to discuss it, and whoever wants to join can join. And it turned into like a thing, and it kind of turned into a community around it as well, a little bit.
I think it's a bit more creepy when a guy does it.
A little, yeah, a little bit, and I don't have like the whole. I can't bamboozle them with like, oh yeah, it's an English club. It's an English club.
Yeah, just go to Quebec then.
Hey, okay. Yeah.
You're not that far from Quebec. Come on.
Jesus. Next two, I will have that. I will do it. I can't promise anyone will
But
show
you
up.
you can try. Yeah. Maybe
Absolutely,
no
yeah.
one will show up, but
There's
maybe
no
they'll.
reason not to try because it's like, yeah, what am I gonna lose at this point? Like, fuck. I have no friends to lose. Oh God. Oh.
Yeah, or maybe like look up the local anarchists in your community.
Yeah.
Don't be scared of them. Come on.
Yeah, they're fine. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, somebody's gotta do it. I have been looking on there for like other people already doing the thing, like let them do with like the awkward setup or whatever, and like find a place to do it. It's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna have to do this myself because it's like, even the people that show up aren't necessarily. That could be the only time they show up and they're like, this isn't for me or whatever. So, whatever, trial and error. But I gotta put myself out there if I'm like, if this is what I'm looking for.
Be brave, Cody.
Just some friends.
You have video games, man.
I have video games, and you have friends in video games, but it's like almost not the same thing. It's found out.
Why don't you move to Spain with the other from Trump?
That is
on your goose from Canada.
You see, okay, so my goose does not have his passport available, nor the he does not have the same physical stamina I do to carry me across the giant pond. But yeah, it's like
difficult.
Definitely. The only thing, the thing is like I can go there for 3 months, but then it's like, what do I do after the 3 months? So the thing I can do after that is either get married to some chick who is already living in Spain, or
even that is difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You found out that was a little tricky. Or even like trying to apply for this like year visa thing, but then it's like, what do I do after the year then? So it's like angry invisible lines.
Barriers. You see barriers.
Lots of
barriers that it do not allow people to meet other people and so forth.
Yeah.
So get other opportunities. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To just live on this planet where they would like to.
Yeah.
Got any French or Irish ancestors or something like that? You can try and claim a passport that way.
Yeah, you look like
Okay,
you might
well,
have Irish.
the luck of the Irish will definitely maybe do me some justice here. That would be nice.
That's what I did. I got an
You got,
Irish
like,
passport.
Oh,
Irish
really?
people?
Okay.
Oh.
All
I
right.
mean, I've got a British passport already, but I got an Irish one anyway.
Right. But you could. Yeah, okay. All right. No,
And
I
with
didn't
an
even know that.
Irish one, you can work in Europe,
Yeah,
even after
For
this
now.
whole Brexit thing.
yeah.
Okay.
That's basically
God.
why I've got it, to be easy to
Right.
travel.
Right. Oh, shit. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely look into that then. Holy crap, that would be huge. Because, I mean, honestly, it's like right now, it's like, I can't even plan that far in my future. It's just like, okay, acquire money, then I can do this
Because
thing
you're so busy doing
for a little bit. Listen, trust me, if I don't
5-6 hours? Like, what is this?
Come on,
you can
Sasha.
you can come chill with me after. I'll do a live stream. I talk to you guys while I'm swinging away at the air. It's
I hope you don't take off your clothes for this, man.
I mean,
donate.
the clothes.
Without clothes, of course. I'm with clothes.
Don't Cody.
You don't want to see everything swinging.
Okay.
Did we do it? Is this the TROM-Cast? Did we do good?
This is the TROM-Cast of the after part.
Doesn't it cut off at like?
No, I have to physically cut this off at some point.
Yeah. We'll cut it off.
Don't cut it off, Cody.
Don't cut it. No, this is the good stuff. Everybody's coming for the
Just
last
not
10
swinging it
minutes.
so much, man.
Shoot.
We can make it 4 hours this time. I'm sure we'll all like it.
I'm sure we can. We're at 2. We're at 2 for sure. Oh man, we just opened up some topics.
I cannot switch from this to something else. So I would say, well, we can call it a day and
Go back to being alone.
That's right. Oh god.
But you only have a door in between you. That's at least something.
But I would say this for anyone who may listen or see this, if they feel lonely and then they don't find like-minded people, they can, if they want, they can join our Chrome discussions room. It's completely free, or TROM-Cast. So if you come here and we can discuss, you can propose subjects like Carl did, and we can discuss them. So I think it's something that is every week. So as you can do that.
Yeah. Join our TROM-Cast.
Join us. Join us.
Don't say it like that.
You can watch Cody's live stream. Feel less lonely.
That's what we are going to do next time.
That's what I'm doing. Like that's what I was about to label my last stream, was like streaming for my social sanity, because just people will pop in, request a song, even if they just use you for that 5 minutes. It's something.
Oh man.
That's not a kind of prostitution. No man, don't go there.
Society.
Oh jeez.
Okay.
Okay. Are we set? Are we good?
Yeah. I think we are not lonely anymore now.
It's enough for a week.
We cured ourselves. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's enough for a month for Tio.
Gio said.
Too many faces.
So much for social change.
Yeah, I would say that you cannot. It's the loneliness part. Mostly, I think in society is the same reason of the same reason. The structure of the society is the same. Is the motivator for loneliness? I would say. That's how I would say. So it kind of boils down to kind of the same things. People being busy, people not having much in here because of the society and so forth. So the more we change the society, I would say, and become saner, and I would say people have more and more free time, and they get more and more educated, then we will see less lonely people. I would say. I say tools will become something that will help us rather than use us, like Facebook uses us or Instagram uses us. I would say that. Yeah.
But that's how it is with most things you talk about, homelessness. Yeah. I mean, they're all symptoms. They're not the causes.
Yeah, that's why I kind of didn't want to make TROM-Cast, for example, or because I was like, every time we will kind of bang our heads onto the same wall, all the time. Like we'll reach kind of the same conclusions. But is maybe that's not the important part. The important part is the entire journey here, the what we discussed in between.
Yeah.
So
maybe just acknowledging.
And that's important as well. That we always come to the same conclusion.
A quick shout out. It doesn't have to drag on like always. Maybe.
Okay then. Yeah. You take your sticks and then go do that
sticks,
thing.
I'll do the thing. I mean, this is how you're gonna end these.
No, it's because I think people are curious now. You should leave a comment and a link with your videos.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll put my Twitch. I'll put my Twitch in the chat before I leave.
Yeah. He's doing that naked. So.
I mean, as long as Twitch will allow me, until I get reported. But nobody's watching, so it's okay. I'm so lonely.
Okay.
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 Very nice.
See you, everyone.
Bye.